Here. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday Notary Titans. My name is Bill Soroka, founder of NotaryCoach.com and the Sign and Thrive Notary Training Course and Community. And Carol Ray is our co-host. Carol, founder of Notary to Pro. Welcome, Carol. How are you today?
I'm terrific. Had a great weekend. Enjoyed my time, and now I'm ready to go back to work.
Yeah, ready to knock it out. All right, awesome. So tell me what you're excited about this week.
Well, I'm excited that we have the Laura's Symposium coming up on Saturday. I'm excited about that. And we've got some guests that are coming with us. I've got Lalo, who is the man who did our Spanish website, all the translation. He's going to be coming up there with us. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Excuse me. And then you and I talked about something a little bit earlier that I would like to bring. Should I talk about that a little bit later when we have more people joining us, or should I mention it now?
Yeah, let's wait till midway. Wait till everybody gets on the call. I think that's a great thing. I'm excited that we're going to meet Lalo in person.
Yeah.
On Saturday. That's
very
so cool.
Charming. Very charming, man.
Awesome.
If only I were 50 years younger. No.
Hey, is Bill in the room there?
No.
All right. Laura, I think Laura said she might be on today.
I'm here.
Hey, there you are, Laura. How's it going?
Good.
Good. Glad you could make it.
It's having a little internet problems there, but it got me connected.
All right. Awesome. Well, welcome. I'm so glad that you made it. Tell us what you're excited about this week.
Several things. One is today I'm driving out to Palo Alto for a meeting where I'm going to be a speaker. And so that'll be fun. I always enjoy doing that for a nonprofit. So that's exciting. And then tomorrow I get my hair done finally. So that's pretty exciting. Let me tell you, it's been a while. And then it's a big deal. And then Friday, I drive out to the airport, pick up Valerie, because we will be staging for the symposium. That's on Saturday. So yay, it's finally here. I'm so excited about it. And I've been printing programs and getting things ready. I don't know if you can see this way. I'm in my new office, but if you see all these boxes stacked everywhere, that's all symposium stuff. And then finally, I'm excited that I have a new office that I'm in. You might notice there's not just a green wall behind me. There's a lot more depth. This office is about 12 by 18. So it's a pretty good size office for me. And I can close off the door, and it's pretty silent in here. So I'm very excited about that too. So lots of stuff happening.
Well, yeah, lots to be excited about. That's great. Awesome, Laura. I love the new office too. Great digs.
Thank you.
And then also, so one of the things I'm excited about this week is the event that, number one, I'm excited to speak at Symposium this week, and I leave tomorrow. So I have a few days to prep, but also the oaths, acknowledgments, and jurats, oh my, that's coming up on November 23rd. And guys, if you are interested in doing this, I'm putting the link in the chat window. It is a free skill builder that Laura is hosting and training on Saturday the 23rd. It is filling up very, very fast. Laura, we're so close to your goal, it will blow your mind.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
I know, it's so cool. But guys, we do have a limit to how many can actually be on a Zoom call. So if you're interested, please get yourself registered for that. And then also, guys, I just want a huge thank you for everybody who had helped the book launch be a huge success. It's a #1 bestseller in so many different categories: Sign and Thrive, How to Make 6 Figures as a Mobile Notary and Loan Signing Agent. I'm blown away by all the support. So thank you for everybody who bought a book and helped elevate that. Yeah, thank you. Candy got a copy on it there. Yeah, well, here, so you can see it. Here it is.
Yeah, I see a couple up there.
Yeah, that's so it's not a brochure, guys. It's over 230 pages, and I kind of designed it to be totally comprehensive. So if you have commitment issues and don't want to commit fully to a training program yet, or you already graduated one and just want to read something on your own, feel free to pick up a book. And the audiobook will be out sometime soon. My goal is before December 31st. All right, cool. So let's jump in because we have a ton of questions already. And before Carol and Laura came on, I asked the audience to kind of prep if they have some live questions. because I'd really love to kind of merge back and forth between the live audience and what we have on our PowerPoint. So to help, now that the rest of you on the call are prepped for that, I'll let you kind of stew and think about that. Raise your hand in the chat window if you have a question. I'll make sure that I get to you. And right now we'll just kick off and go into the PowerPoint, which is somewhere here. There we go. All right. Oh. And we missed David's question last week, and somebody typed it into the chat window and I didn't know what they were talking about. And then I found it. I'm like, oh, we skipped over this last time. So from David, the one question I do have, now that I have gone through the background screening, do I need to wait for that to come back first for me to do a loan signing agent certification exam? Or can I do the exam without the background check? Laura, Carol, one of you want to take this one?
Yeah, if it's the NNA one you're talking about, you can do the exam first, which is actually recommended. Make sure that you don't have any issues with that, and then you can submit your background screen. If you've already submitted it, it takes 3 to 5 days to get that turned around. A couple of states are running a little longer, but you can go ahead and work on that exam because you need both parts completed in order for that flag to flip to certified.
Yeah, beautiful. I totally agree. And that little window of time that you have waiting for your background check to come is perfect for studying, taking the test, starting your training course,
Right.
you know, whatever it might be. This is the perfect time to do that one. So there's no idle time. You know, in some of the states, sometimes the notary commission takes a little bit longer than other states.
Right.
There's no point in just sitting back, not doing anything to move yourself forward on your business. Get into the training, start practicing, do whatever it takes to keep so you hit the ground running when you are totally complete. Carol, anything else to offer on that one?
No, they do have to be aware that they have to have that background check in place before they start signing up with companies, because that's required. It's as a part of their portfolio.
Beautiful. Harold says, I know all 3 of you have spoken on Ron during TNT, but I don't remember if either of you have given your opinion about the Notarize Rewired conference. My question is it worth attending? I realize the info is going to be kind of notarized skewed. Does it give any good info about Ron? I'm in California. Ron isn't here yet, but I know it's coming. And this Rewired event, I think, is in Florida. It might be happening right now. I think it's this month. Any feedback or thoughts on that?
I don't know really anything about the conference itself and what they'll be doing there. For those of us in California, that bill that is before our legislature is currently under, I think, evaluation and potential rewriting. And I know that Matt is attending that meeting. And so until we actually have a law that tells us what our requirements are going to be in California, because every state gets to put their spin on what they want. Some states have said, look, you've got to be a resident of California if you're going to do this, meaning the customer. So sometimes states can put requirements on there that other states don't have. So it's really important that we know what our requirements are, and we don't know that yet.
Great answer. For me, I'm just going to offer just a general statement about events, because regardless of the topic, how you manage and your plan for attending and your plan for follow-up really is the deciding factor on whether or not you should attend these things. Is it worth flying across the country for something like this? It very well might be, if you are the type of person that is going to engage and connect and then follow up, because everybody who's anybody in the business, meaning the vendors, the movers and shakers, you're probably going to have the big lenders, the Alta title people, they're probably all going to be there. There's probably going to be enormous value. And you're the only one that can decide if it makes sense for you in your business. And if Ron is something that you're going to elevate on your services, then maybe it does make sense, but maybe it doesn't either. If you're just going to go and be a fly on the wall and just sit back and absorb information, that would not make sense, because most of that information you're going to be able to find online anyway. I think these types of events, if they're local and make sense, just make sense, but sometimes they don't. So I wish there was a more solid answer there. Carol, do you have any feedback on that?
No, not at all.
Beautiful. Glenn says, I have a question about a particular signing service that sends documents that are not the correct size of paper. And then when we print them out, the bottom of the page is cut off. Then we have to reprint because of their error, or even worse, have to complete the entire signing over again. I say we because I've heard from several other signing agents regarding this same company. And with this company, I always verify the size and I ask the signing service for corrected copies, since I do not know which need to be on legal and which need to be on letter size. I then get a call from them. It's not their problem, and they abruptly hang up. My question is, what would you do? Just print everything on legal, refuse the signing, or never use that signing service again? I thought this was interesting, an interesting problem to have. Laura, you look like you got something to say on that.
Well, you know how I am. Relationships are a two-way street. That's how I feel about it. And if I want to deliver, you know, an accurate, correct product, which is the loan signing documents that I've printed, then it starts with what was scanned to come to me. And we need to work, meaning me and the signing service need to work it out together to make that work. And if they're not willing to work with me to make that happen, then that's probably not a client that I'm going to want to work with in the future. Now, I know a lot of you are like, hey, I don't have that many clients, so maybe I just can't afford to be kissing them off. And I get that. In that case, you may need to do everything on legal, except the deed. I'd never do the deed of trust on legal, but everything else. But as you are growing your business, consider that it is a two-way relationship.
I love that. Carol, what do you think on this?
Don't work for them.
There you go.
No, I'm serious. I've had this happen to students, and they have to reprint. They have to go back out. They have to go through all of that hassle. It's not their fault. Those documents were delivered to them in a way that does not allow them to print correctly. And you know what? You do that once or twice, you're not going to want to work with these people again. And I know who they're talking about, and they're very rude. They don't care. They'll send them out whatever way they want them, and then they'll be calling you and saying, you made a mistake, and now you've got to go back and sign everything all over again. I don't put up with that kind of stuff.
I love that.
And I don't want my students to have to.
I love you guys for that.
I had a situation similar. They sent me the documents, and I mean, it was just all over the place. And I called and asked them, and I said, you know, can you resend? And they said, well, that's just the way we received them. You can just go ahead and print them that way. It's not going to matter. I said, okay.
Yeah, I would be getting the name of that person and the date and the time that you spoke with them, that they instructed you to proceed with the signing with the documents, however they were, that it didn't matter, so that you have something if you're going to move forward with the assignment to, you know, back you up.
You know, I want to comment to that, Laura, because this is a really important thing, and this is something that I really stress to my students. Get everything in writing.
Yeah.
Try to get everything in emails and keep them forever, because those are your backup. Those are your protection against people who will come right out and lie to you. And unfortunately, it does happen. But anytime that you run into a situation like this and you're given some kind of incorrect feedback or something that's rude, get it in writing, save it, or write down exactly who you talked to, the time, the date, everything, and keep that because that will eventually help you so many times. It's not the he said, she said kind of thing. It becomes something really more lucrative and more important than that.
Yeah, this is probably something that could be easily fixed with just a setting change or a software or something like that if it was a two-way street of communication. But here's what the deal breaker for me, I think, is right along with you guys. Anybody who is that rude and hangs up on you and says it's not their problem, that is not a win-win relationship, and you do deserve better than that. Now, workaround though, because not everybody's in the boat where they can just fire clients all willy-nilly. What would be the workaround here, Carol? Would you recommend that they just print everything on legal just to be safe?
If it's happened before to them, yes. But I don't like to see that happen at all. And they could reject it then. They could say,
Yeah.
we don't allow to have the documents on legal. They have to be printed the way that they were intended to be printed. So you're really in a very bad position, no matter what you do. No, I say go to Bill and learn how to get more clients. and seriously, you've got to reach a point in your career where you work with great people. The people that are less than that lie to you, that give you incorrect information, they're not worth working for. They're really not. So, maybe you don't have that many people that are hiring you. Go out and get more so that you leave those behind. And you can easily do it. It's really not that difficult.
Love it. Elizabeth says, hi, Bill. Happy end of month to you. So I think this is from last month. I have a long question. I went on a loan signing. It was a married couple and they were adding their daughter to the loan. However, they did not want their daughter to be on the deed of trust. They stressed to me that they had made it very clear to the agent that helped them out. Because of their daughter being on the deed of trust, the signing didn't happen. At 8 p.m. on the Saturday, getting a hold of their agent was impossible. I was, however, able to reach someone from the signing company that hired me. And they told me if they didn't want to sign because the reason I just explained to you, there was nothing I can do. My question is, what would Bill Soroka do on this one? Well, and I think there's only so much that we can do. There's only so much that we can control in these situations. And this is somebody who the documentation was not the way that they wanted it to be. So they did not want to sign. And there's nothing wrong with that. I would have been the exact same boat. Number one, I ask anytime I run into a challenge and somebody has a question and I'm not able to answer it, or I'm not allowed to answer it, and I can't get a hold of anybody, I just say, hey, is this a deal breaker question? Like, if the answer to this is yes, do you not want to move forward? They'll tell you, yeah, I don't want to move forward. If that's the answer, then okay. Then we need to pause the signing right now. We need to get a hold of somebody who can give us the answers. And if we can't, we just wrap up the signing and we're done. Nothing wrong with that one. How would you guys do it differently? Carol, Laura, anything that you would do different?
If they're not willing to sign, they're not happy, and it wasn't the way that it was supposed to be, just like you find it, this is either going to happen or not. They say, nope, that's it. Wrap up your stuff, wish them good luck, tell them if it ever changes, you'll be happy to come back. And that's it. You can't force this stuff on people, and you shouldn't.
That's the beautiful part about our job, is that we're not vested in whether or not this thing signs or not. We're not supposed to be anyway. So if somebody really doesn't want to sign, that's why we never use like the right to cancel as an enticement to get people to sign. Just sign it and you can figure it out later, that type of thing. That's not our job and our role. That we're doing a disservice if we trick people or tease people into signing documents. That's not what we're there to do. We're there to facilitate a signing because they want to sign the documents. If they don't want to sign the documents, that's part of our role, is not to proceed.
Over the years, Bill and I had so many repeat customers because we were in the same area for a long time. Because of this very situation, something would happen. We would go out there. We didn't make them feel uncomfortable or, it's your loan. We're not obligated to it. And because of that, we gained a certain amount of trust. And there are people who refinance every couple of years. And we got to see a lot of them. And they asked for us by name so many times. And a lot of times it came out of a situation just like that. And we didn't make them feel bad or force them into to doing anything.
Exactly. That's what I think most of the people on this call are in this business because of the relationship component. And even in loan signings, in general notary work, there's this opportunity to build this relationship that really does last outside of a single transaction. I can't tell you how many times I've refinanced the same people. Like, sometimes it's every 6 months, sometimes it's every couple of years, but you follow them from house to house sometimes because they have loyalty to their loan officer, who has loyalty to either me or the escrow officer, who then has loyalty to me. So it really can work out that way. Patricia, I see that you have your hand up. Did I miss you? Is she gone already?
No, I'm not gone. I'm here.
Oh, there you go. Hi.
What I have learned to do, TNT, leaders is that if I know that it's going to be in the evening or on the weekend, I ask them to get their loan officer's cell phone. So if any questions arise that we can get in contact with him or her, it's easier that way than for me to pick up all my toys and leave and have somebody to blame me for if the loan signing went south. So it's coming, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, excellent.
I was going to say that we used to always have loan officer cell phone numbers. They don't do that anymore for some reason.
No, they don't. So I make
they
sure that
don't.
they
And
ask
I
for
think
it.
that's great to push that, ask for that.
It's a great example of how to be proactive. I love it. Laura, did you have something on that too?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry. All right. Anybody else live call since we're here?
You know, I see a question from Brett in the chat
Yeah, great.
about going to a loan signing and having the loan officer show up and take over.
Just hijack it.
Just hijack your signing. And, do you confront them? What do you do about that? And I may be the only one who feels this way, but I just say, okay, I'm the notary. Go right ahead. Your client, present those documents. Maybe I'll learn something. And I just let it roll. I don't have an issue. If the loan officer says, I'm going to present these, and hey, I'm not the loan officer. I'm fine with it. I'll do my job. Now, I will follow the instructions with who's going to get the documents and how that's going to work. I take care of that part because I'm hired to make sure those documents get wherever they have to go. But in terms of presenting, I'm not territorial. If that loan officer wants to talk with their signer and walk them through it, no problem for me.
Yeah,
I do it. I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with you. And I really respect loan officers that come to the signings. I do. I've expressed myself regarding real estate agents, however. That's a whole different thing. But as far as a loan officer coming, I'll sit back and, hey, take over. That's fine with me. I'm like you too. I might learn something. There might be something in there that I can, absorb for another time. So
yeah. One thing that you don't want to do is get into an ego battle at the table, and there's no need for it because we can double check the work. Now, that's the key part is double and triple check the work, because even though they're sometimes in their own mind, in their own right, they are experts, but they miss lots of signatures and initials because they're not always an expert on the closing side of things.
Right. So that's why you become QA.
Yep, exactly.
Right? You don't get rid of your QA. Whether I present or somebody else presents, I'm checking for signatures, I'm checking for initials, I'm doing all that stuff at the end.
Yep, exactly. And then, so here's the other thing that I've learned too, guys, is a lot of times loan officers and even real estate agents, they kind of take over because a signing agent in the past has let them down. And they've seen it's been horrendous signings sometimes. So they just step in and they're like, oh gosh, this person doesn't know what they're doing. And that's why I like to take that, what like Carol calls gentle control in the very beginning. Like, I just like to establish it. I'm like, hey, why don't you sit here? You sit here. We'll let the real estate agent sit here, and the loan officer, if you'd like to sit here, because sometimes you get them all at the table. Just take that gentle control that shows that you know what you're doing. And then I like to start the script off right away, and I have that in the book. I have that in my course. So it just establishes authority. So I know what I'm doing. People have confidence in my abilities. And then it also gives that perception of control to them. So if they want to slow down and read anything, or if the loan officer wants to jump in and chime in, it's welcome. And then they'll sit back and they'll say, okay, I'm going to give this guy a chance. Then you roll into the rest of it and it's like, oh, okay, this is good. And I can't tell you how many times people have said, this was the best signing I've ever sat through, because I just follow that script piece by piece and it just flows. And they'll jump in when they want to. Sometimes they'll start talking about curtains and carpet and stuff like that. And you've got to rein them in a little bit, but you just do it gently and you have some fun with it and be part of the celebration. Let's see. Okay, let's jump back into the presentation here. Whoops. All right, Judy says, I received a call from a 5-star signing service needing an end-of-month loan signing. The property was in Georgia, but the signers were willing to come across the state line to avoid needing an attorney. I told him I could not complete the signing because the property was in Georgia. He said it was just like any other out-of-state signing. I hated to pass up the money, but I did not want to put my notary commission in jeopardy. Am I correct with Georgia being an attorney state that I could have completed the signing in Tennessee if they had an attorney from Georgia involved? They were wanting to bypass the attorney law at my risk. Laura, I'm curious. What do you think?
I believe Georgia just had a new law that said if the property is Georgia, they don't care where you sign it. They don't care if it's signed in another state. They're going to require an attorney involvement. I don't have my book right in front of me, but you guys can discuss this and I will look it up. But I believe that Georgia passed a law recently that indicates wherever the property is, if it's in the state of Georgia, it doesn't matter where the signers are. That's what I have to say.
Yeah.
So I'd
Now,
say,
can I come in?
Yeah, Judy. Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I have done one other signing involving Georgia property. The borrower was actually working in Tennessee, and I met him at his place of employment. But in the instructions, it clearly gave the name and phone number of the attorney that I had to call. We had to call, get him on the phone. We got him on the phone. He did his little spiel and asked if the borrower had any questions, and he said no. And then he said, okay, once you've completed the signing, you have to call me back and let me know that everything has closed. And I said, okay, no problem. And, and I didn't have an issue with that one, but my problem was they were saying because it was late on a Saturday evening, they couldn't find an attorney. And with it being in Georgia, everything that I've read, and Tim Gatewood put out something on the websites about Georgia. The Attorney General, I guess, had put out something about any property, real estate property involved in Georgia has to have an attorney. Now I can sign it in Tennessee, but I have to be in contact with that Georgia attorney. I mean, they could have come across the line and me signed it in Tennessee, but there would still have to be an attorney involved. It was my understanding.
I agree. Any signings that we had over the years that were for property that was within the state of an attorney state, we always had an attorney. There was always an attorney involved, usually on a phone call or something. You had to do something. I wouldn't put my commission in jeopardy and risk it and ignore that.
Yeah, that whole, we talked about this at length last week, is that legal interpretation of present and involved. So without going into that though, I think what Judy, I think what you did here is you stated integrity, because as the more you know about the story, you can clearly see that they're trying to bypass a law. So you wouldn't necessarily want to be a party to that. It's one thing if it just happens to be in the area for you, but when you know what they're trying to do, that changes the story. So great question. Thank you for posing that. Denise says, I'm curious to know what you and other notaries are sensing about the current uptick in business on the loan signing side, i.e. their beliefs that it will taper off come November. Here we are in November, trying to gauge how I should plan for future months as it relates to the monetary end of the business. Carol, what do you say on this?
I say that it's like this. Don't look for it to do this. Not for a long time. It's going good. Enjoy it. Don't question it. Don't be worried about it. Learn to do other things. Add other things to your, to what you do in your business. Be prepared, when it does slow down, and it will. We've talked about this before. But for right now, interest rates are down. There's a lot of stuff going on all over the country. And just ride it. Do the best you can. And while you're doing that, add things to your business. In fact, Joe just said diversify. And that's really true. Talk to Laura. She'll teach you how to do other stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Laura, do you have any other advice on this?
You know, we know that real estate goes up and down. We have to just pay attention to the factors that impact that. Like Carol said, the interest rate is low. As long as that interest rate is low, people can afford to buy or to refinance, and they're going to, and that's going to drive business our way. However, it will sooner or later start to taper off. And that's why I did not want to rely on that volatility. And I added other specialties to the work that I do. So not only am I a loan signing specialist, but I do the adoptions, and I do hospital work, and I go to jail a lot, and I do all these other things that are not impacted by the interest rate, so that I always have a foundation of work going on. And right now, I know I normally don't do very many. Right now, I'm probably doing about 10 signings a month, which is unusual for me. But it's just because the people that I happen to work with directly have a lot of volume and they're calling me. And so I'm trying to help out with that. But yeah, nothing is good forever. So make sure that now, while you can do the work, great, do it. But be thinking about what else you can do.
Yeah, always be finding ways to add value or services. But also, one of the big things that is really hard to remember when we're this busy is to keep working on your business, not just in it. You've got to keep cultivating relationships so that these clients that you have outlast an uptick. So what you get in a surge like this is you get more and more opportunities to build relationships that will last longer than this. So always keep focusing on it, do what you do. And that's why having these habits or routines or rituals after each signing is so important, so you remember to send out the cards, so you remember to send out the invoices if it's necessary. So you stay on top of that, even when you're doing 5 or 6 signings a day, as you are when you're just doing 1 signing a day. And those are how the relationships in your business sustains, even when things slow down a little bit. Noelle says, I feel there's one roadblock. I'm nervous about jumping out there and not knowing which forms to use when I notarize documents, forgetting certain rules, and the biggest, the way I'm supposed to charge in Florida is a little confusing. Also, can you notarize documents for free sometimes? I know once I've started, I'll be okay. I just want to feel comfortable before jumping out there. Any advice you could give would be awesome. Carol, I know you get hit with this question all the time, the first signing nervousness. What do you tell people?
Wow. They have every right to be nervous. All I can say, I can only speak for myself, that I think we do a really, really good job in training people with those basics to learn about different documents. I do go through documents 1 page at a time, make sure that they understand. It's backed up by our exam. They're not certified till they really get a 90% on our exams. There's things that I say to my students that do help when they're getting ready for their first signings. I think it's really important. I have my little script about what to do. Once they get in there, once they get through the first signing, and this is something I do tell my students, we rarely have anybody that says that these people, that the signers knew that this was their first signing. We structure it in a way so that they just don't know. There's certain things that you do when you go into a person's house, that just being yourself and not misleading them on anything, they don't have to be nervous. You need to just learn what you can learn and try to practice it. Remember it, take control when you get to the signing, be yourself, and you'll be just fine. As far as the fees, I don't know. Of course you can do it for free, but I don't talk about fees very much.
Yeah, we'll keep that up for a separate conversation. This is more about the nervousness, because there's so many people who feel this. And for me, guys, like when you feel anxiety or nervous or fear, that's a signal. And how sometimes if you can chase that down, you can figure out what you're afraid of. For some people, it's just knocking on the door, or I'm afraid I'm going to forget their names, or I'm afraid I don't know where to tell them where to sit or how to start the signing or how to check ID or how to fill out my journal or what spreadsheets, which documents. Whatever that is, whenever you go down the rabbit hole a little bit and you figure out what it is that you are really nervous about or afraid of, you can bolster that. You can train on it. You can practice. I used to be super nervous about just forgetting names. Like that was my worst nightmare, is to call somebody the wrong name at the front door. So I built in looking at the documents right before I knock on the door so I'd never forget them. Or I'd memorized a way to start the script so I didn't have awkward silence. I now know what to say whenever I'm taking the ID paperwork. That's going to take a few minutes. So I just communicate it and I share that. That's the system that I built. So if you figure out what it is that you're really nervous about, practice. If it's just the whole thing, then practice. Find a practice package and get the practice buddy and push paper across the table. Practice your script over and over and over again. There is nothing wrong. In fact, it is exceptional for you to practice this work before the actual signing starts. That will elevate you to another level of peace of mind, if nothing else, if you do that. Laura, did you have anything on that too? I know you coach people through this all the time.
You know what, when I coach regarding loan signings, I am coaching a very specific area, and that's called at the table. And so the biggest reason why people come to me, even though they're already certified, is that they're feeling uncomfortable with what to say with the documents, what to say in between, how to set themselves at the table. And so I have a set of practice documents, and what I'm doing with them is I show them, okay, here's how I'm presenting the documents. Oh, here's what I might say in between. And then I pull documents and say, what would you tell me about this document? Or how would you present this? And then I have them actually present the documents. It's like an hour and a half of just practicing with this set of documents. And what I tell them when they're done with me, because they're like, okay, I think I got it. I said, you know what? You need to do it 5 more times. Find a spouse, find a friend, find a BFF, and sit down with these documents and present them to them, just like it was a loan signing. And when you've done that completely 5 more times, then you're ready. And I think, Bill, you hit it with, practice is what alleviates the anxiety. And it builds your memory muscle.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
I think one of the things is, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think one of the things that's so important, it's the little things. It's funny, but one of the things that I ask the students when they're preparing to go to a signing is, how are you going to hand those documents? Let's say you have a round table, you have a square table, you have a rectangle table. Now you have to decide, are you going to sit at the head of it, or are you going to sit across from people? And if you are you right-handed or are you left-handed? And if you're right-handed, you're going to hand those documents off to the right. Are you going to have, if there's 2 people at the table, are you going to have them hand that once they sign? Are you going to have them hand it off? And is that person going to keep those documents, turn them upside down and put them in front of them? Or are they going to hand it back to you? Those things, those little tiny things, when you think about it and you determine in advance what you're going to be doing, it just changes everything. You're prepared now. And we don't talk so much about practicing. I know a lot of my students do. They'll practice with their kids or their spouses. But I have a lot of people who just jump right in after training and without the time really to spend practicing. But they do. It's the little things that really matter. Just knowing, planning, being ready.
That's so true. And the things that jam us up are those little things. When you get thrown a curveball or you don't know where you're going to sit at the table. So practicing those things and having a plan in advance is what makes the difference. The other thing I'll add before we move on to the next question is that a lot of times when you're brand new and you're nervous and you're worried about forgetting everything or where to sit and all that stuff, you tend to put all your attention on the paperwork instead of on the people. And that leads to a pretty miserable experience for your signer. So if you can, shift that ratio and give your attention to the people. When they like you and they trust you and you've got established confidence, the rest of the signing goes super smooth, a lot smoother. So even if you don't know exactly what the document is, have a plan. You know, this lender does things a little bit different. I'm just going to read this real quick and make sure it is what I think it is. Yep, it sure is. This is what that is. You know, if you have that level of trust, you can negotiate as you go through the signing. All right, next up is Scott. Oh, actually, we got a couple hands up. Let's take some live ones. James Pliscott.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How's it going?
Yes, we can definitely hear you. What can we do for you today?
New signer, haven't done a signing yet. In a recent TNT call, you guys were going over what to put in a journal. And if I understood it right, you just can't have one entry in the journal, but you talked about having multiple entries, and going over the practice packages, there seems to be about 6 to 8 acknowledgments or oaths. So is it a line item for every one of them? That's my question.
Great question, James. I'm going to let Laura take this one. What state are you in?
Florida.
In Florida. Oh, interesting. Laura, what do you think in Florida?
Yeah, so of course, every state has their own, requirements. And in Florida, I believe, well, first of all states, if you're a loan signing agent, you've agreed that you'll maintain one. But I thought Florida's journal was a recommendation, not a requirement. Do you know your state's law regarding having a journal? Just as
That's correct. It is not a requirement. I just want to do best practice.
So best practice is going to be 1 line per signer per document, so that you have a complete entry for every single document that you notarize, because more is better. If you get called into court later, if there's any dispute later, you want to be able to show writing what happened between you and that signer, and your journal is your only record. There isn't anything else for you. The documents are gone. So I highly recommend that. Now, that said, because you're in a state where it's only recommended, certainly you might do other shortcuts to make it a little more expedient. You can use stamps, which is what I do. You might do down arrow marks on a repeatable piece of information. You might abbreviate the word acknowledgement. There are some small things you can do to expedite the recording of it, since it's only a suggestion for you rather than a requirement as it is for me. But I recommend having a line item for each and a signature for each.
Great. Thank you for that question, James. Jan, thank you for being here. Welcome. Jan, you're on mute if you're talking. I can unmute you. Jan, we can hear you now. I'm going to put you back on mute. We'll come back to you. Dory, you want to unmute and ask your question? Dory McCleskey.
TNT is broken. We broke it.
They are so ferociously taking notes right now that they can't ask their question. Patricia Bridges.
Hello there.
Hi, welcome back.
My worst signing as a new loan signer after being certified through Carol was to get the documents at the exact same time that I was supposed to be at the appointment, which was an hour away. So I sat there losing my mind, and I just channeled Carol. What would Carol do? How would Carol do it?
Mm-hmm.
So I called the customer, upbeat and perky, and told them, guess what? I am so sorry I just got the documents, but I must review them and have them ready. Looks like I might be an hour late. Is that okay? Is there someplace you need to go? And if you do, please do it, and I'll call you en route. They could not see I was losing my mind, and my eyes were crossing in front of me. And they said, oh, okay, I understand. I said, and call, if you want to, like call your loan officer. I sat there, I was printing out these documents so ferociously and going through it. That was my biggest fear. But I kept saying, Carol would look at the documents. Carol would check this off. Carol would review it. It turned out to be my very best signing because I came there, I was prepared, and I flew up the highway. I don't know who I killed on the way. But I did a good signing. They understood. I apologized again. I took control. And I think that's anybody's biggest fear being new, is just being prepared. And I was so scared I didn't have a chance to be totally, frightened, because everything that could go wrong had already gone wrong. So I thank all of you all for that, because you got me prepared for the worst case scenario.
Awesome. Love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Bill,
Yeah.
at what point I would like to talk to everybody about my
Yes, let's do that.
idea. Beth, is Beth on here?
I think I saw Beth on there earlier. Yeah, go ahead. This is perfect time.
Beth, I can't ever pronounce her name. Hathut, who is in
Scots Irish. It's Hathut.
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 There we go.
Okay. Anyway, Beth came to me a few weeks ago. She is a longtime graduate of mine. She lives in Arizona, and she had a really wonderful idea, and I wanted to share it with the people here and see what kind of reaction I got. And this is not trying to divide people by age, or there's no discrimination or anything like that. But she had a thought. In the years past, most of my students have been in their 20s and 30s, and this has been a new career for them. They are working and don't like the jobs and want to get out of it and make this as a full-time job, which I'm sure that a lot of the people out here would like to do. Things have changed the last 3 years or so. Most of my students that come to me are people that are in their 50s and 60s. They are preparing themselves for retirement. They've been dismissed by companies and they're being treated just terribly. They're looking for something to do that is going to be something that they can do, that's fun, that's going to give them the financial stability that they need. And she was talking about the differences between somebody who's in their 20s and 30s doing this job and somebody who's in their 50s and 60s and even 70s, old like me, doing this job. That we face, as you get older, you do face certain situations, liabilities, not being able to see quite as well, maybe not being able to drive at night, maybe not being as speedy. There's things that we face as older people, senior people. And so we were talking about maybe having a once a month group meeting similar to the TNT. My husband says we should call it the coffee clutch. The senior cup, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And just sitting and just talking. I mean, we can have younger people there. We're not trying to discriminate or cut anybody out, but we thought it might be interesting to get people together who are more senior and discuss some of the problems that we have as we grow older. And so I wanted to get some feedback. So you can maybe make a few comments here, but basically if you'll send me an email, excuse me, notary2pro@gmail.com with your email address or phone number, whatever you like. I think we'd like to start this, but I would like to get some feedback and see what people feel and how you feel about it. And I thank Beth for that. I thought it was a wonderful idea.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Great. So yeah, anybody who wants to join that or has some feedback on that, just email Carol. I can't wait to see where you go with that. Let's go back to Dory. Dory, are you available now?
I am. Thank you. Sorry about that earlier.
No problem.
So I value all of your expertise, and I had a situation come up recently where I had an escrow manager call, and she asked to have a meeting with me, and I'm guessing it's pretty serious because I can't do signings with them until they have a conversation with me. Apparently, a client had complained saying that I said something that I shouldn't have or explained something that I shouldn't have, and I can't think of what it could possibly be. But I intend to go into this meeting turning it to the positive, letting them know, hey, I never want to misinform somebody or over-explain something. So I appreciate that you're meeting with me instead of just putting me on the no-call blacklist or something. But if there's anything else that I can think to do to turn this around to a positive and make a good situation of it, I would love to hear your feedback.
Yeah, great question. I remember several times being in similar situations. For me, it was always in my head way worse than it actually turned out to be. Sometimes it wasn't that big a deal. Still, I think the importance, just like in any situation like this, your reaction and how you handle this is what is going to determine the future of that relationship. And I love that they honor and respect the relationship with you enough to even have this conversation. So be coachable, and like you already are. I mean, Dory, you're kicking butt over there in Colorado, so I know you'll handle it very well. But I find coachability and being solution oriented is the kind of the key to everything. Just like for a regular mobile notary and loan signing agent, when you make an error or mistake, just owning that, taking responsibility, acknowledging the problem, and assuring a solution. And then also be open to the idea that it might be something totally different too. It might be something that determines that it's no longer a win-win for you. So it's not a groveling meeting either. It's two business professionals meeting on equal ground, deciding, having a discussion about a problem, a challenge, or an opportunity. You never know what it could be. Okay. Carol, Laura, any other suggestions for Dory as she goes into this meeting?
I think she's already got her head on straight with being coachable and open to whatever it is that they want to present. And I agree with Bill that certainly if you've done something that isn't in line with what needs to be done and you're open to hearing what that's about, and you let them know, okay, I get it, that is not appropriate and I won't do that anymore. But it's not for you to be there for them to beat you down with it.
I didn't get that impression at all. She was very polite and pleasant and seemed to want to help. So thank you.
There you go. I've made mistakes. I've had calls to say, hey, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, whatever it is. And I think that your responsiveness to the call, to go in, and your openness to listen to whatever it is to incorporate is all you need.
Dory, expect the best. Be prepared for the worst.
Right.
Okay.
They may be calling you in there to tell you that they just love you. They want to hire you. You don't know.
I'll tell you, that actually did happen to me once. I thought I was going to lose my biggest client, and it was actually a meeting that gave me a raise, and they started paying me more per signing. So awesome. It really wasn't that bad. But well, that was great. But the other thing too is, Dory, and you're building a team under you too. Be open to the idea that it might involve somebody that you've hired. And that is, I would say 8 times out of the 10 that I have these types of meetings, it's because one of my notaries has said something or dressed inappropriately or something along those lines, or didn't follow the guidelines for something. So it could be something else that you've got going on too.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate all of you.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. And please keep us informed. I'd love to hear, even if it's privately, Dory, so hit me up.
Okay, thanks, Bill, I will.
Yep, you got it. Jan, are you with us yet? Jan, we can hear you if you just say something. All right. Next time, Jan, we do have a time for, I think, one more question. Anybody live that would like to ask their question? Have you been sitting with a question challenge? Aaron says, well, this is a great one, actually. Aaron, thank you. Do you still take or complete signings when you have a cold, or do you let the signing company know and see if they prefer to reassign? Carol, what do you think on that?
I don't go to people's homes sick, no more than I would want to go to their homes and excuse me, and they're sick. And yes, if you've got a cold, you've got something that you could be passing on to other people, then I would bow out. let them know, tell them the truth. I'm sick. I don't think that I belong in their homes. And, unless you're going to be signing outside, and you can always call people and find out, if you've got a signing, is there an area that you might be signing on a patio or something? And if that's the case, then, think about going. But otherwise, no, I wouldn't go when I'm sick. Not for my sake, but I don't want to hand that off. I don't want to make other people sick.
Exactly. And I like to be part of the solution, though. I don't like to just say, well, I'm sick, figure it out, guys. I like to say, all right, here's 3 other notaries. I know they're on your approved list, or 3 that I work with and I trust. Here are their phone numbers. I've already talked to them. They're totally willing to take this on. So you don't create a problem for somebody just by doing this. And they really
That's why
appreciate
networking is
huge.
Really important if you can do that in your own area.
Yep, excellent. And then we do have a question here. Laura, I think this would be great for you if you don't mind. Chris is asking, he's got a question that's bothering him for a while now. He recently had a notarization where an attorney in fact signed and took an oath on the jurat. About a week after notarizing it, though, he learned that an attorney in fact is not actually allowed to take an oath. Is this a huge mistake that could get me into legal trouble? And what should I do generally once you realize you've made a mistake like this?
So I'm not quite sure where that person got the information that an attorney in fact cannot take an oath. They certainly can. However, that oath has to be based on their own personal knowledge. So they are the one held to the penalty of perjury, not the principal signer for whom they're signing documents. So an attorney in fact can sign a document that has a jurat on it if they can swear from their own personal knowledge that the information in the document is truthful.
Nice, good. Chris, does that help answer your question? What state are you in, Chris, too? Maybe you could, that would change the thing. Okay, great, it helps. He's in Florida. All right, wonderful.
I won't change that.
So Victoria says, I still have not heard back on the status of a signing on whether or not it closed. What about me contacting the signer about it closing? Victoria asked this question. I'm not quite sure. Laura, Carol, do you track your closings? I've never tracked whether or not I close. I track whether.
No, my concern is if they call and say there's something wrong. Other than that, I just figure it's closed. It's none of my business.
Yeah.
I'm not going to follow up. I don't waste my energy doing that.
The thing is,
I have a question then.
Yeah, you bet.
This one here, I don't either. This is the first time this has ever happened to me. I don't really work with a lot of escrow companies. I work with like PRC and those kind of companies. And I did a signing, it's been almost a month ago. And I have contacted the escrow officer, and her response was basically that there's a problem with it. And it still hasn't closed, which means I haven't been paid. That's why I'm following up.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah, so if the loan is still like in process and it hasn't closed yet, that might just be one of those lingering things. And as part of the team, if it's escrow direct, then I would just sit tight and monitor it. If it's dead and closed and it's not going to close, you still get paid from that. So
Exactly.
I would imagine that they're probably just like, yeah, sorry. Well, they may not even be communicating. It sounds like they're not, but
Exactly.
everybody in the transaction, nobody in the transaction is getting paid until that thing gets closed. That's usually how it goes.
Okay, I guess I'm thinking, just to check on the status, do you wait a month, 2 months, 3 months, you never hear anything and just let it go?
Well, I'd like to communicate. Number one, this is a relationship, and it's going to be a win-win relationship, or it's going to be a non-relationship. So if I'm interested in continuing a relationship with this company, then I would absolutely reach out. Just checking in. What's any status update on this thing, or do I just sit tight? And they'll tell you, just sit tight. I haven't heard anything, but I know they're still trying to close, or whatever it might be, because they're all kind of in the same boat too. But I like to assume that I give people the benefit of the doubt all the time in these situations, especially escrow direct. If you operate and you believe that one relationship could change everything in your business, then you probably adopt that same policy too, until they prove otherwise. And if it's not a win-win, then you could escalate things in a different way too, if they're not a relationship that you're interested in continuing.
Yeah. This is a one lady office. This isn't a big office. It's
Okay.
a one. person office. And I guess my other question was too, I would never contact the signer. I wouldn't just out and out say, how did it close? But I have kind of weird feelings about this one. I really do, for some other reasons.
Gotcha. And well, one thing that I think all three of us always say is trust your gut.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're right at 10 o'clock. Or 9 o'clock or wherever you are. It's time to end. So I got to wrap it up here. Victoria, thank you for asking that great question. Carol, thank you so much for your time and your great idea. And Beth Hathett as well. Laura from coachmelaura.com. Thank you so much for your time. I'm glad you made it today. Good luck on your speaking engagement. And we'll see you guys. Well, I'll see you both on Friday. And the rest of you, we'll see you next week.
See you Saturday.
See you later.